Okay, let's continue with the reality acceptance skills. This is a fantastic package of skills. Uh, Anyone can use this to take the edge off a difficult moment during the day when you have to tolerate something you don't want to tolerate, as well as really intense, distressing things. So let's start with them. The most deep principle, you might say, that's associated with these is called the first skill. It's called radical acceptance, right? So this is a starred page, radical acceptance, and there's a lot about it. Basically, what it is, first of all, is kind of from deeply within, with your entire self, your soul, your heart, your mind. It's accepting whatever reality that you're feeling like rejecting, what some unpleasant reality. The idea is to accept it rather than be controlled by it. Just if it is, it is. It doesn't mean approving it. It doesn't mean agreeing with it. It doesn't mean going with it. It actually just means seeing reality accurately. In fact, it makes you better at opposing reality if you want to change it. If you can actually see what it is, see a little of where it came from, and understand that it is what it is. It's not just going to go away because of your intense emotional response. The things to be accepted are almost anything that is sitting there at the moment that's troublesome, a loss of somebody, some untoward turn of events in your life, some bad incident that happens. It's kind of like these things have happened. They have a history right up to the moment they happened. And in a sense, it couldn't have been otherwise, given everything that came before. Radical acceptance is kind of like accepting that even though you hate what happened in some cases, you disapprove of what happened, you disagree, you're going to fight tooth and nail with what happened, you recognize that what happened is real. It happened. This person is doing this thing. This person is gone. This illness is now present. This accident has happened. It's not easy to get there, but the idea is to try to replace rejecting reality with just radically accepting it. Why doing it? Why do it? There's a box here on why to accept reality. Well, rejecting it doesn't do anything other than keeps you up against reality. It doesn't change anything. In fact, it might make it less likely to change. And if you want to change reality, you might be wiser, as I said, to start out by accepting it. Another point, pain cannot be avoided. Pain's going to be there. Life is pain. Life includes pain. Therefore, it's telling you something. It's information when there's something there that's painful. And so if you're just rejecting it, you're not listening to the information, which means you're probably not going to be too skillful in doing something about it. And by rejecting reality, on top of the pain that comes with it, because it is there, you add suffering, which is your protest, your internal protest against it. By not accepting it, adds to suffering. And another point made here is that acceptance may lead to sadness when you've been fighting something and then you accept it. That doesn't mean you give up. It doesn't mean you surrender in a compromising sense. You just accept that it's there, and then you might be very sad. But usually after following through with that sadness, it'll become possible to feel more calm about it and get back to whatever you want to be doing about it. There's another handout about things that interfere with radical acceptance. I recommend that you teach that, talk about it, talk with different, find out from different group members what interferes with it. And there's another handout, 11B, called Practicing Radical Acceptance Step by Step, where you start with something, noticing you don't accept something, and then step by step by step, it gives you instructions, suggestions for how to start accepting the reality, maybe a bit at a time. The next handout is another skill. So it's skill number 2. There's radical acceptance, and then there's turning the mind. Now, turning the mind is really related to radical acceptance because it just means that when it arises in you, the awareness that you're not accepting and you don't feel like accepting, you then turn your mind back to the path of acceptance. This skill, turn the mind, is based on the idea that there are two paths. There's a fork in the road. There's rejection and acceptance. And you're going to go down one or the other. And turn the mind, it just keeps turning yourself towards the path of acceptance. I think it's so important because it also then makes it possible to be with reality, be with your responses to reality, and if they are upset responses, then to be able to use the skills that are appropriate for that, like the distress tolerance skills and the crisis survival skills. Okay? And in turning the mind, you observe that you're not accepting something. You notice your emotions, you notice your thoughts. You go in yourself and you make another inner commitment to accept reality as it is, to acknowledge and accept that it is, and then keep doing that over and over again. You might want to do that even the next day, and then kind of start to develop a plan for staying with reality as opposed to fighting it. Next skill, willingness, willingness, willingness. Similar idea. This came from the writing of Rollo May. And the idea here is that the universe is doing certain things at any given time. Reality is happening. Reality is evolving. This is going on. And how you interact with that could be in a willful manner or a willing manner, and anything in between, I suppose. But to be willful, it means that you're going to refuse to tolerate the direction of things, refuse to tolerate this moment, refuse to accept it, maybe give up, bail out because you just won't accept it, go against everything, try to fix every situation that comes along rather than to accept things or be willing to accept them. And willfulness insists on being in control. There's reality, and then there's me, and I'm going to control it, I'm going to stop it, I'm going to fix it, I'm going to refuse it. These are all willful responses. And willingness is to notice that response and then observe that we're willful. Maybe label it, say, here's my willfulness. My willfulness is back again. Then look at this moment that you feel willful and radically accept that you are willful. I radically accept my willfulness. I am a willful individual right now, and I accept that. There's a history to that. There's a reason for that. There's a cause for that. But then see if you can turn your mind towards acceptance for all the reasons we've already talked about and that are even laid out more in the manual. To turn your mind towards acceptance and to do things that'll help with that, including the next couple skills we're going to talk about. One being willing hands, which is a bodily way to demonstrate acceptance. And half smile, which is another bodily way to convey acceptance that we'll go over as a skill. So the idea is to do just, if you're being willing, you're accepting that reality is what it is, it's moving the way it's moving, and you're going to do what's needed to move towards your goals, to move towards your values, to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, to go all the way with just being willing. You know, you didn't want to go to a social occasion. You know, you might go there and just be disgruntled the whole time. Or you might notice there's a willfulness in your disgruntlement. And maybe if you just notice that, then accept your disgruntlement, but then turn your mind towards willingness to just be there. Just accept this is it. Go with it. You're less likely to suffer. Okay, next two skills, half smiling and willing hands, right? So these both are the same idea, accepting reality with different aspects of your body. It really is to acknowledge that there's a communication loop between the body and the brain. And if the brain experiences you or sees you, so to speak, as acting willing, acting accepting, the brain is more likely to tolerate things and to accept things. You know, outside-in communication. So let's take half smiling first, and you can read more details, but I want to introduce you because sometimes people have trouble teaching this because patients and leaders too, to some degree, get embarrassed doing this because you do something with your face and people are sensitive about their face. I suggest you, once you teach this, that you try to have people practice it all with their eyes closed, including you with your eyes closed. But the way I teach it is that the first job, I'll take my glasses off for this, is to relax your face. Relax it. You don't have to massage it. I find it helpful to massage my face, my jaw, my neck, really, because there's so many muscles in there, well over 100 muscles, and you want to just let things relax, even sort of feel a little heavy, sleepy even. Let them relax, all right? And rather than thinking, let me smile, think just more, I'm just going to let my face be serene. I'm going to let my face be accepting. This is just the way the world is right now. Just accept it. I did this once when I was experiencing a lot of turbulence coming in on an airplane to Minnesota, and really scary for me. And everybody looked scared. So I closed my eyes and I practiced this skill of just massaging my face, just noticing then, letting things relax. Sit there and notice my breath. And then do one more thing, which is the half smile part, which is just with the corners of my lips, and you can watch while I do this. Just bring them up like a Mona Lisa kind of smile, not a big grin, not a smile, not a tense smile, just relaxed. Let it come up, sort of like on some Buddha statues. And sometimes that just helps do one more thing towards serenity, peace, and then that facial expression is communicating to your brain that we can handle things. And willing hands does the same thing with your hands. You let your arms go down. If you're in a sitting position like I am right now, you might just let your hands go down on your thighs. With your hands unclenched, let them turn upwards. It sort of says, I accept what's going on. I see, I acknowledge, I accept with the hands and the arms. And that by itself, if you just do that for a while, can help you create a larger accepting posture to the universe. It sort of speaks to your brain saying, it's all right, I've got this. We're going to accept this. We're going to acknowledge what happens. Last skill. There's a couple pages about in various ways and different situations where you can practice half smile and willing hands. The last one is mindfulness of current thoughts. And I'm going to do this one and stop here in just a minute. And with this one, the idea is that you've got distressing thoughts flying through your brain. And if you let yourself just observe them, just notice, just sit, maybe pay attention to the breath, and then notice thoughts coming and going like a wave. Don't suppress them. Don't block them out. Be aware that distressing thoughts will fly into your brain and they will fly out. They will cause a little turbulence while they're in there, and you acknowledge that they are there. You don't try to block them out or deny them. You don't try to keep them around or amplify them. You don't have to analyze them. They're just seeing them the way you would see sensations, the way you would see brains firing, which is what kind of thoughts are. They're firings of neurons in the brain. So you're trying to just reduce thoughts to that in a sense. Don't follow your thoughts. You might ask yourself, be curious about them, but let them come and let them go. Don't dig in. And remember that you are not your thoughts. Your thoughts are coming through you. You are a vehicle for your thoughts, and therefore it helps you reduce your sense that this is somehow catastrophic and you have to get into emotion mind with these thoughts. And the last step is to not block or suppress your thoughts. Just let them be. Just allow them. Recognize them. Allow them. Hold them. Let them go lightly. Let them come and go. Okay? Helps reduce distress or tolerate distress. Okay.